I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome, which is basically feeling that you're not good enough. There have been many times in my life that I've felt like I wasn't good enough to do something, or I wasn't good enough to fill a role. I wasn't good enough to show up to this job and perform and do a good job. I wasn't good enough to speak about information that I hadn't completely mastered yet. I wasn't good enough to speak up in conversation at all. That's the way that I felt. And I want to bring it to your attention that most people actually have imposter syndrome. Most successful people actually have imposter syndrome. I remember hearing about a study before that said 90% of very successful people often experience those feelings of imposter syndrome, where they don't feel like they're qualified to do the job that they're doing. And it really makes sense because, if you think about it, we all start from zero, right? We all start having nothing in life. We're born into this world as a little kid, and then you start growing up and you start accomplishing things. Maybe when you're a kid, you join a sports team. Maybe when you're, in high school, you, get into a relationship with somebody that you really like. And then you go to college, you start taking these classes, or you get a job, and everything is basically new until you get experienced in it. So when somebody, even a really successful person who's been working their way up in the world, they're going to feel those feelings of not being qualified to do their job because they've worked their way into that position. Even people that haven't worked their way up into that position, that haven't grown into it, even people like that who have, kind of stumbled into wealth, like people who had wealthy parents, for example. They probably have imposter syndrome even more because they didn't work for it. So I think this whole feeling not good enough feeling affects a lot of people. Not only in their professional lives, but also just in general, social situations. And so what do you do about it? I guess the thing that's worked for me is I acknowledge that those thoughts are there that are telling me no, you're not good enough for that. You're not good enough to speak about this topic or to do this job. And I just do it anyway. I think that's the way that most people get through it, is they just do it anyway. I tend to listen not to my emotions or my tendency to go towards comfort and just stay safe and not take risks and not take action and not try to be successful. I tend to try to just do what I am intending to do, because here's the thing about clarity of intent and being decisive is, if you've got two things in your mind, okay, say there are thoughts in your mind saying, no, you can't do this, you're not good enough. But then another part of your brain is going, I really want to do this. I really want to accomplish this. Maybe say it's going and getting a job, or starting, a business that you want to start, or starting a project, anything. If you know in your heart that you actually want to do that, you want to try it, you really have to find a way to quiet down that voice in your head that's saying you're not good enough, because that voice in your head that's saying you're not good enough is not actually your voice. It was probably put into you at some point in your life. That's how those voices get there, or that's how those thoughts get there. Because if you think about it, who starts out, at the very, very beginning, who starts out telling themselves that they're not good enough? Nobody. You'll never see a kid who's just born into this world with low self-esteem until somebody says, no, don't do that, don't express yourself, stop, until somebody discourages him from doing what he wants to do. So yeah, those thoughts were absolutely put into you, and it's your job to kind of distinguish which thoughts are not helping you and which thoughts are actually yours and are characteristic of what you actually want to accomplish in life, and go with that and quiet those other voices. Shift your focus away from them and put it on the goal that you actually have in front of you and complete that goal. Even if it's tough, even if your emotions are all over the place, even if your brain's trying to stop you from doing it, even if your brain's telling you you're not good enough and you shouldn't be doing this, just do it anyway, because you know what you want to do, and deep in your heart, you know what you want to do. But a lot of us have people in our lives like peers or parents or whatever who are projecting their own feelings of wanting to be safe onto you, and it's not their fault. They're just feelings that they have that they're passing on to you. But if you truly want to accomplish something in life, you have to do that thing and just ignore, or maybe not ignore, well, yeah, I mean, for lack of a better word, ignore. I like to think of it as like shifting your focus away from them, from those self-defeating thoughts, and just putting it on the task at hand.